Prasnopanishad is a book from Chinmaya Mission, sir.
This is from Chinmaya Mission,
Chinmaya.
Ramakrishna Mission.
So we did till 5. After that,
Uh-huh.
we do the name.
Okay, okay.
Name,
Right. ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. These shlokas, before we go to the shlokas, see, the whole thing we started with the idea of the whole creation as from outside that has come. How the sun is the one pranam charayincha. So these are the two things that are created, and then uh, sun himself is the prana, and then moon is the rai. Idea of moon is supposed to be somebody who is borrowed, who borrows the energy from that and then creates. So this is the model that he has from there that he develops. Now he has given in the what happens is that whatever that is there outside is also, we are also part of that. We are not different from that. So therefore, outside and inside, there is something which is very common, similar. In fact, today I wanted to give you that idea that what happens is that you see, easily understood idea is that we interact with the world outside and we have memory inside. And when you look at that interacting with the world and the memory, there also there is a match that goes on between that. That means to say what we hear and what we have in memory, what we heard, what we saw, what we have seen in the memory that we have, what we touched. So that means to say, whatever the senses that are running outside, it has its parallel component inside us. That's why it is called as tanmatra. Now, of course, whatever that is there outside is something um, which is enormous, huge. It is limitless kind of a thing. And whatever that we have is that's why it is called as Veshti, and this Samishti is called as Veshti. Veshti is that individual level, Samishti is something there. So whatever that we have inside, the same thing that we have in the outside also. Like the way the earth we have taken from the earth, water we have taken from the water. Similarly, that this is where even the mind, whatever that cosmic mind is there, we have individual mind. And so therefore that this matching takes place between these two. And outside, whatever these forces that are there, he calls it as Deva. And I, I always used to say that, uh, but in a different context, I used to say that um, whatever that makes the potential energy into kinetic activity, it is what is chakra. The wheel is the contrivance which converts the potential activity into a kinetic activity, potential force into kinetic activity. Very simple thing is I have to move this table or something like that. It does not move by itself. I have to apply pressure. But then the moment I put the wheels underneath, it easily moves. So wheel is a contrivance which converts the potential into. So this is what I always used to say, that Brahman is a potential, but then it has to become kinetic activity. So how is that activity is done? The wheel, that's what we call it as Kala Chakra. So the time wheel, it's an imaginary wheel, it's contrivance, so on which it makes. So therefore, these and the beauty of it is that how the time is reckoned. Time is reckoned by the amount of movement that something does over a period of time. That's what is the reckon. But then where it moves, that is another question. So what about the space? But then you did not say when the space is created. Movement you said, but the space is not. So simultaneously creates a space and then moves. Space has that facility that it just happens as the way that it goes, continues. So therefore, moment and the time, one is the energy and the other is the space. Both these things are created simultaneously. So therefore, that the whole external is the one which is created. And the same thing that is there, what we see, various uh, various aspects that are there within us. So this is what is the seventh sutra, which says that the Prajapati, which is supposed to be the Lord of the future, Charasi Garbhe Twameva Pratijayase, alone moves in the womb as a fetus, and thus indeed are born again as a child to thee, O Prana, who art always dwells in the other prana sense organs. These creatures offer oblations. Prajapati he so tubhyam prana praja prajas ima balim haranti yah pranai pratitishasi. So it is the prana which offers itself so that this becomes like this. It is uh, it is like this. Later on in the third sutra also, it is the same thing that applies. Uh, let's see another sutra also. Then after that we will come to. So devanamasi vahnitamaha pitrunam pradhama swatha ऋषीणाम चरति सत्यम अथर्व अंगीरस मय इंद्रस्त्वं प्राणतेजसा रुद्रोसि परिरक्षित त्वमंतरिक्षे चरसि सूर्यस्त्वं ज्योतिषां पतिः and यदा त्वमभि वर्षस्य अथेमाः प्राणते प्रजाः आनन्दरूपा तिष्ठन्ति कामायन्ना भविष्यति इति. So, of course, there is different kind of model that he uses, but later on also in the third sutra also he uses different kind of model. But this, I would, I like it this way that Brahman is something which is supposed to be total freedom, absolute freedom. Freedom means basically there is nothing like a boundary. There is no boundary. Because the moment that boundary is there, that means to say it is bound by certain thing, means basically beyond that it does not have a freedom. So if I say somebody that you have freedom to go anywhere but don't go there, that means there is no freedom to go. That's how it created that Adam was very free. Adam and Eve, they were very free in the garden. Nice. Only thing is that angel came and said that don't eat that fruit. Finish. Now the direction gone in that direction. So they actually that there is no boundary, and that's what is the freedom. But then there is one more freedom element, or the most important freedom element is that it is a freedom to give up its freedom. This is the most important, so that it can become something which is of a lesser freedom. That means to say now it creates a boundary. In one of the Upanishads, he says that, I think in this Upanishad, first he creates the boundary called as Sattva-Rajas-Tamas, Guna boundary. So now within that Guna things start working with that. So once it starts giving up its freedom, then why does it give freedom? So that what happens, interaction takes place. See, if I'm all alone, where is the question of interaction? Brahman is all alone, where is the question of interaction? At least there is something else to be there, and that something else to be in the opposite direction. so that interaction should take place. That's why pranamcha, rayamcha, that is how it started. So therefore, this interaction to take place, that it has to create two things. And Taittiriya Upanishad, I always fascinated by the idea. It says that hunger and the food are simultaneously created by the same thing. So the hunger is there, it meets with the food. So food is there for the sake of hunger. Our colloquial way, they used to always say, if you are hungry, that means there is food. It is obvious that there is food. That's why you are hungry. Like that, they used to say. So therefore, basically, what happens is that these two means boundaries created so that interaction takes place. Now, further, it creates further boundaries to see that further interactions take place. This is what we have seen in the case of Kala. The time, what happens is that it creates graha, that means planets, it creates various stars. So stars, again, boundaries, um, and planets are boundaries. Now, because, and then positions also say different. Therefore, based on the position of the time, these things, now the time is created. Not only time, various mm, sub divisions of the time is also created by these things. So, and where is it coming from? When we say that it is the same sun which has become the various planets and all those things, or even the sun is also from the same another sun, all these suns are formed. That means stars are formed. So that here the sun is that one mega sun that you take, all these stars are supposed to be different suns. So all these things are formed from the same source, but by differently that they are placed and positioned and all that. Therefore, we get all these kind of divisions. And see, that is the beauty of Indian calendar. In the Western calendar, they follow only the sundial. Sundial is where horizontal, and then in Greenwich that you can see that only one plane that by year that sun moves around. So there are 365 days that they divide it into 12 months and all those things. But later on, in fact, earlier they divided only 10 months. There are only 10 months. That's why December is the 10th month, Desi, and November is the ninth month, Nava. October is the 8th month. So to start with, they had only 10 months. Later on, that was not matching because the time was not agreeable. So therefore, they had to add one more month. That's why Julius Caesar, during his time, on his name, that they added one more month called as July. Similarly, Saint Augustine added one more month called as August. So that's how they were grappling with that particular idea. In Indian calendar, we did not have that kind of a thing because there it is a static calendar. That means to say every time it is 31, 30 days, 31. Whereas Indian calendar is dynamic calendar. Dynamic calendar in such a way that today's it is not based on the sunrise or sunset. But today the tithi, according to it would have started somewhere in the morning and sometime in the afternoon. So that means to say it moves and creates this kind of thing. At the end of it, all this movement adds one month so that we have one Adhika Masa, so that the whole thing continues to readjust itself. That's why it is called as a dynamic calendar. Because it's a dynamic calendar for the last 5,000, 10,000 years, it was never altered. They never added one month or just after one. Calculations, whatever that followed at that time, is also the same today also. And what is this based on? It's based on stars, planets, and positions, and Earth's movement. So all these things, the whole gamut of time is created by the sun. Sun facilitated by doing all those things to have this particular time. And so much of time that we had divisions about all these things that uh, you know minute and second, we have nanoseconds are also there, vigadias, there are so many things that are there. That means to say we divided the time of minute into so many different divisions, so much that we could do it because that we had the references in the world outside. All the references are because of that. So it's all created from the same sun. The sun is responsible for all those things. So
The Kala Chakra.
ah,
Kala means when? Chakra means what?
chakra means wheel.
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 We need to understand in that manner.
Yes, wheel is the concept that we only gave the concept of wheel because see what is essential thing is that any movement you you recognize only based on something which is non-moving. Otherwise, you can't think of movement.
The concept of the concept of time movement, like that.
So therefore, basically, that is there any object where movement and non-movement are in the same thing together in one object? It's only the wheel. The axle is something which is not moving, and the periphery is which is moving. So therefore, that we had a concept that where a absolutely non-moving and absolutely moving, both these things are put together. That's what is chakra. That is the only thing which can give us the idea of time, because movement, non-moving and moving. And there's another thing that the center axle is no dimension. It is zero, zero dimension. Actually, that's the very definition of center is where of the circle is where the radius is zero. That's what it is. So therefore, basically, that's what is the center, and then when they add it, it comes outside into the circle. So therefore, basically, that a moment and non-moment, a dimensionless object and the dimension, which are together, that's the only concept. That's what is real. So now we have this idea of Brahman, and then the whole creation is there. So where can we fit in that non-movement and movement together? Brahman. That's why we call it that as unmanifest Brahman. This is manifest Brahman. So in manifest Brahman there is movement, and that's what our people always say that one important aspect of the creation is movement. The karma, action, is the way that identified. That's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that you cannot live for a second without doing an activity. Nahi kachchi kshanamapi jatutishthati akarmakrit. Not even karyate yavashaha. That means to say it has to be done. There is no. In fact, the moment that you stop doing it, that means you are dead. You are no more existing. You are not part of the existence because anything that you take in existence is something which is moving, which is continuously moving. Now, this movement has this five different components. Anything which is moving, it has to be born, jayate, then vardhate, it grows, and then upanimate, that means now it can proliferate, and then apakshiyate, that means goes down, and then mriyate, dies. So what is born has to die. So it has to follow these things. So therefore, basically, Brahman, in the question of manifest Brahman, when you come to, then these five principles are there within that. Whether you call it as Rama, Krishna, or Buddha, or anybody has to follow this particular order. So now this is the aspect of the creation itself. But then around what that this is happening? Around something which is non-dying principle. And that's what is Brahman. So behind all these things there is Brahman. And not only that Brahman, you are that Brahman. That's what is the idea. Because that you see this movement happening, birth and grow and all those things. That's what you become old. So the whole movement you are seeing, you are experiencing. It's your experience. So therefore, you are Brahman. So it is up to me whether I should identify myself with that Brahman, which is not movement, so that death and birth does not touch me, or I identify myself with the which continuously goes on dying, anyway, which is dying, and then I still worry that it is dying. I don't have to do because I know that it is like that. Let me not identify with that. This is what the whole process that is there. So now, this whole thing, what is that which is the non-moving principle Brahman behind is what is called as Prajapati. That he calls it as Prajapati. So, in fact, there is another, and uh, he creates this Garbha. That means to say the Prajapati is the one it starts the movement in the garbha, in the womb, and then as a fetus, and thus indeed is born again as a child. It continues as a child. So it is, everything is nothing but this Prajapati comes into the picture. This in Mandukya Upanishad, this Prajapati is called as Vaishvanara. So therefore, that Brahman himself, in fact, so much that when you say that you are saying eyes are only instrument, mind is only instrument. But then all these instruments are used, but who is experiencing? You are experiencing. The consciousness is the one which is saying. The consciousness is one which is, we call it as consciousness, but otherwise it is the same Brahman. Brahman in me is saying, Brahman in me is touching, Brahman experiencing. It's all the Brahman's experience, it's enough. But then another thing is that whatever may be the experience in the world outside, it's not touched by Brahman. Like for example, in a circle, in a whatever may be the center, you draw any circle, it doesn't change the center. Center is untouched by any of those things. So therefore, any problem that happens, anything that you do, any nonsense that you do, adharma that you do it will not touch you. So it doesn't touch you at all. So it's not belong to you. But unfortunately, what happens is that we identify with that. That's our problem is we identify with that. Otherwise, it is not. Child, child does not have any problem or anything. That he does something. For us, we say, oh, child. But for child, there is nothing like he is untouched by that. Achyuta. That's why Krishna's name is Achyuta. Achyuta means one who is touched. Achyuta is not touched by anything. So now, what happens is that Garbha starts. Now, a child is born, and then now, as long as it is there inside the seed, it doesn't matter. But then when the journey starts, then actually movement and the growth and all those things. And what is that which is moving, which is growing? It's Brahman only. It's nothing but Brahman that is growing. That's why we have such a beautiful concept that every child is nothing but Brahman only. And because he is not even contaminated by anything of the world outside, so therefore it is Brahman. So it is basically this Prajapati is the one, or the Brahman himself is the one who is in the womb in the form of a fetus, and indeed are born again as a child. And O prana, the what always dwells in the other pranas, organs, these creatures offer oblations. Now, the story is like this that there is another Upanishad Vakya which is very beautiful and what is the origin of this creation, Jagat? The very name, I don't know in what way in English you call it as world or creation and all that, but their creation is a very, something is created. That is somebody with a magic wand he created kind of. We don't have that concept. Creation for us is essentially Jagat. Gachati, Jayati, Gachati iti Jagat. That means to say that born and then movement starts. Gachati movement. This movement we call it as world, creation. Without this movement, then there will be Brahman. So therefore, what happens is that this now it is this and how this moment is created is the one which Upanishad says the spandana matrameva jagat. It is the spandana which created the jagat. Now, what happens is if the spandana means it's not just only the moment, it is to and fro motion. See, like for example, clock, because then there is something which is a pendulum moving from one side to the other side. That's why the clock is created. If it is only on one side, then it doesn't make any sense. It has to come back and then go back again. So therefore, it's a cyclical movement. So of all the activities that are there within us, only cyclical movement, that's what is supposed to be the respiration, prana. I mean, respiration and heartbeat. These are the things which are cyclical movement. That's why he says that that's what is directly the Brahman or the sun, which is supposed to be prana. So that is the basic fundamental thing for the creation. All other things are born out of it. They may not have that kind of to and fro motion. Like for example, your thinking doesn't have any to and fro motion. Digestion, there is no to and fro motion. Other things are, they have motion, but it's not to and fro motion. So what is not to and fro motion is not the one which creates the jagat. It is that part of the jagat, but it doesn't. What has got the to and fro motion is the jagat. Therefore, what happens is that the respiration becomes the main prana. All the other activities, my hand movement, this and that, these are all peripheral activities. They are not directly the prana itself. So that is what it says, that what creates that kind of a movement of respiration, that is what is the prana that is there inside the fetus. And now it manifests various other pranas, like the way when it is in the seed form, you just see that there's absolutely everything is homogeneous. But as the child grows, you can see the hands develop, and then fingers develop, and then legs develop, and then heart develops, and this develop, and that develop. No, first you see the mother's womb, but the child's face doesn't have eyes and ears. Eyes are there, only thing, but others are not there. The eyes belong to the prana. So therefore, all these things are slowly come up. Who organized that? When you look at it, the Mukhya Prana, he entrusts these various activities to the various aspects of it, so that you become that. You go and you become that. So therefore, it is that which now entrusts all these things to the other pranas. That's what he says, that त्वमेव प्रतिजायसे तुभ्यं प्राणः प्रजास्वि आत्मा बलिं हरन्ति prane pratitiष्ठति. So therefore, born in the child to the O prana, you are always dwellers in the other pranas. Other pranas means other sensory organs and all those things. And these creatures offer oblations. So naturally, what happens is that your other senses, which are supposed to be the born out of that central prana, so they depend on, they pay respect to or they serve this main prana, which is supposed to be Mukhya prana. That's why that story was there where who is supposed to be the leader. Each one of them they say that I am extraordinary. Okay, all right. When Mukhya prana goes away, everything dies. Because that they don't have independent individual existence. They all depend on this. So therefore, that you pay respects to. This is poetic way of putting the idea. Thing is that all these things should subserve the prana, the main thing which is supposed to be spandana. Indrastvam prana tejasa rudrosi parirakshita devanamasi vahintamaha pitrunam prathama swathaha ऋषीणाम चरति सत्यम अथर्व angirasam achasi. So now this particular ability within us to see, when we look at this, because the light is there, that's why we see. Similarly, because the wind is there outside, therefore we hear. So when you look at it, this wind is supposed to be tanmatra of the hearing is tanmatra of the wind that is there outside. Seeing is the tanmatra of the light that is there outside. So that means, say, if a small little iota of it can make me to see, iota of it can make me to hear, and all those things, what must be the light that is there? Is it not something extraordinary? That means to say, what I have a capacity, suppose if 1 unit, and outside what you see is a million units beyond that. So therefore, this million unit in Sanskrit we call it as divya. Divya means something which is extraordinary. One candle, I have candlelight, it's called as light, but a billion candles that is there, sun, we call it as sun god. So when we say God, it's only there are two things. One is that it is billion times get bigger, and and also that without even my asking, he gives. I have never asked for, I did not look for, but then he gives. And then he didn't even wait for me to say thanks. That means to say, he, and the two, I was thinking one more thing about this. Look at the way sun where he is and where we are. Earth itself is like a small little speck for the sun. On the earth, we are even minuter than the speck. There is nothing. But then he gives me, see, whatever that he gives. And imagine that whatever that he has, out of it, a small little ray comes to me, and that's what. And there are so many things which are spread around, not caught by anywhere, not reflected by anything anywhere. Because it is reflected on earth, we see as a brightness. But without, and earth is a small little speck, and then around the sun, 360 degrees in spherical way, he must be burning so much of energy that is there. That means what is his energy that he has? So can we not consider to be God? That's what he says, that you are the God. I pay respects to you because I received this from you. Not that you are looking for my respect, but I respect you. Because the simple thing is that you are somebody who is, if I respect you, then one thing is that I try to make the best use of this, whatever that is there. And second thing is that I also try to cultivate this habit of giving, like the way that you are giving. Both these things occur by giving. So therefore, he
Mutual.
says,
Mutual.
mutual. So that is how basically Devanamasi Vahintamaha Pitrunam Prathama Swataha Rushinam Charanti. Satyam Atharvangir. Before that he says, Tubhya Pranaha Praja Balim uh, E Pranahi Pratithishtasi. And then Indrastam Pranaha Tejasa Rudrosi Paririkshitaha Tamantarikshe Charasi Suryastam Jyotisham Patihi. So therefore, all these things that you are there like that, therefore I develop the respect for you. So this, by looking at all these things, that all that I develop is a respect for this one divinity, which is supposed to be sun god, which is the basis for all these things that are there. Ida Tomapi Varshasya Adeva Pranate Prajaha Ananda Surupa Tishtanti Kamayanam Bhavishyatiti. So, oh Prana, when you cause the rain, so and now look at the way that he slowly, everywhere that he gives that idea of respect to it. Oh Lord, you are the energy, you are the Indra, and you are the Rudra. Rudra is that which is the power behind it. And then Indra is the energy that is there. And you move in the sky in the form of a sun, Lord of all lives. So that's what you are, the Lord. And now you also give us the rain, and then see that when the rain comes, naturally the whole crops develop and all that, everything blossoms. You see, all these things are because of you only. So it's not because of anything else. So therefore, that and moment that crops come, the Ananda Surupaiti Tishtanti Kamayanda Bhavishyati. So now you see that there is development and all those things go. So there is a kind of a joy, bliss that is there. In fact, in India, what happens is that we have always the flowers are there, always the leaves are there. We don't have like the way the West the seasons are there. Whereas in the West, in Europe particularly, I mean, I was one time in upper part of in Canada and all that. You see that winter means only white color, everywhere snow, nothing else is there. The same thing about Germany also that was there. And then I go at this time of spring, and then suddenly when the spring that one flower comes, one leaf comes, they're so excited and they keep talking about, did you see the flower? The flower has come and all that. Forget about it. We have always flower. See, you don't understand the joy that you get.
The one for beauty is beautiful.
Yeah.
In that winter, the tree is totally empty.
Yes.
Even a single leaf.
Oh, that one.
If it comes to next
So-
season again, it blossoms.
Spring. That's why it's called. Spring is such a beautiful word. Everything blossoms. And my friend doctor, he always says that it looks like the whole, miles and miles together, they have this sunflowers. Suddenly the flowers come up, He said, do they talk to each other that today we'll all assemble here like that? Where are they? Suddenly, it looks like that. It's a very poetic feeling that you have. So, eh, this is what it says that it adds so much of joy, a flower. Actually, a simple movement adds such a joy. Forget about all other things. See, if a stone is there and then dog is there, a dog is just sleeping, lazy. Whereas you tie a small little invisible kind of a thread to this stone, try to pull it, immediately the dog will get attention is drawn towards that. So that means to say the moment that is created, in any case, it creates that kind of joy and the pleasure. All these things you are creating in the form of this. So the expression that he gives about the sun, what all the ways that he is यदा त्वमपि वर्षस्य अथैव प्राणते प्रजाः now brings about the life and anandarupaha tishtante kamayanna bhavishyati. So therefore that the food and everything will develop. Vratasyavam, vratastavam pranaihi karshati. This vratas, vratasrava uh, is a very beautiful expression. Vratya is somebody who doesn't have any bondage. That's why he calls it as here he calls it as unbaptized. Unbaptized is not a right word. But I would say that he is not bound by anything. So that is what is Vratasva. It is like useless. The meaning of Vratasva is useless. So you are the useless fellow. And then that means to say you don't have anything to do. You really are bound by doing anything. In spite of it, you do that. See, the others, the whole idea is that all others are bound by doing something or the other. Wind is bound by blowing, sun is bound by rising. So these are all the things which are bound by certain activities. Otherwise, this is what in Taitra Upanishad he says that Bishasmad Vatapavate, two places it is said. Bishodete Suryaha, Bishad Ignast. And this is that out of fear, uh, Vatapavate, the wind blows out of fear. What is the fear wind has to blow? The poetic expression. And Bhishodete Surya, Bhishasmat, Agnischa, Indrascha, Mrityudhavati. Even the death god functions out of fear. In fact, there is another Upanishad also which says very similar kind of expression. It says that Bhayadish Jagnishtapati, Bhayodeti Surya. That means to say, fire burns you out of fear. See, fire burns. What do you mean by that burning out of fear? Why does he say fear? This is what Shankaracharya gives a commentary on that, saying that Atmanasha Rupam Bhayam Manyamanaha. That means to say, if you don't burn, you are not recognized as fire. So fire is bound by burning. Similarly, if water does not wet, you don't recognize it as water. Recognition goes away. My identity goes away. The fear of losing that identity, Atmana Sharupam Bhayam, that's what is the basic identity that they have. So, but here, Prajapati doesn't have any boundary, but then he does all those things. So, in fact, people also can see that until the somehow this is like this that we don't have in Indian context the concept of retirement. We have beautiful four ashramas. You just pass through the ashramas. You just go. That's all. There is no question of retirement. But the Western concept is retirement, and it is such a funny thing that retirement basically means that you are now useless. But before that, what happens is that they say, anyway, in a year that he's going to retire, so let us make him as chief engineer, director, and all this. Then you retire him. At least 1 month, let him sit on the director and then retire. So now what happens is that if you are an ordinary engineer and retire, you don't even feel bad about it. Once you become chief engineer and retire, now next day you go to the office as chief engineer. Your own peon who was sitting in front of you, now he doesn't even care for you. You are useless fellow. And then the, the office people, because lot of time many of these paper finalizing will be there. They go to the office. The office manager says, "Please sit down. I have this call from chief engineer." The chief engineer is supposed to be junior. You wait here and then let me go and attend to him and come back. What an unfortunate thing it is. So it is like you are taken to the Everest and then dropped from there. 25th floor balcony, you are dropped from there. That's what is the idea. And it's such a, and you are, not only that, at the home, everywhere that you are useless now. My doctor friend in Germany, he says that, see, ever since I retired, my wife says I should do all the homework, washing the clothes, this and that, guard, cutting guard. Otherwise, I was enjoying all those things as chief. He was a chief medical officer for a big hospital. Now he's retired. Saw that. So this curses that. So Prajapati is somebody who does not have any activity to do it. It's out of joy that he does it. So, but he himself cannot do it. Therefore, he creates the people and trusts them with this kind of an activity to do it. So therefore, basically, this Prajapati, which is supposed to be prana, mukhya prana, because of it, all those things, ye te vachi, tanurvachi, pratishita, shrotre cha chakshushi, the manasi, santata shivam takuruhu, kramanti. So again, all these things, and they are doing their work. This manas is very simple idea is that all these things they report to the manas. Your eyes, your eyes and ears, etc. They report to the manas. Manas is a central unit. And manas also, whatever that we report from the outside, the senses report to the manas. The same way that your memory, whatever that is there, report to the manas. You recollect whatever that is there. Oh, yesterday I've seen, yesterday I heard this name somewhere. So all these things are that from the mind. Mind is a central unit. Whatever the memory reports, whatever this is what I said that match takes place. That means the eyes, whatever that is you see, recognize from the eyes, ears, etc. This matching takes place at the mind. Mind is a central unit to do that. Mind does not do anything bigger than that. Then intellect is there, which says whether it is right or wrong. That's why we have a very clear picture about intellect. Uh, what is what? That is what is. Manas, and then what decides? Come on, you do this. Nishyatmakaha buddhi. Buddhi is something which is nischaya. So therefore, manas there is something like that. Sankalpa vikalpatmakam manaha. Manaha is the one which there is sankalpa vikalpa. That means this matches, this does not match. That's all the mind which does. And nishyatmakaha buddhi. Buddhi is the one which decides. That's why we always say feeling is something which is there deep inside, but when it comes to the execution, take the help of mind, intellect. Intellect has to decide. Let emotion not decide about this. Your bhavana decide, then it goes on. So therefore, feeling is there inside, that's wonderful. Unfortunately, that's the reason why a lot of people they equated that feeling to the mind. But mind is a unit which is matching these two things, that's all. Is a central unit. Whereas intellect, beyond the intellect, is the feeling that is belonging to you, consciousness. So therefore, essentially, that it is the mind which is supposed to be central unit of all those things, and then with the guidance of intellect, it does all those things, and everything is executed because of the prana. So therefore, when he says about that, then he has such a great respect for prana. That's why he next shloka that comes, he closes the chapter with the idea of pranasjedam vashet sarvam tridive yat pratishtatam mateva putran rakshasva Srishcha Prajnanta Videhani. Like the way that in the womb, like the way that you develop the growth and all those things, it is the prana which is trying to help it. Now here he talks about the whole outside and the prana. He comes to that idea. Now he goes whatever that's going on inside in the form of third chapter, third shloka. Third shloka is more of inside how he divides all. Outside he divided in the form of see wind, air, I mean water, fire, and all those things, and then the qualities and tanmatras, all those things that he has given, and it is something which is so absolutely wonderfully organized. And that same thing that he talks about in the inside. Now he goes to that.
Here in this shloka, there is a protector,
Yeah,
Mateva Putra.
Mateva Putra,
In
where
that earlier shloka, he says that Datara Pita, so he
yes,
specified as father also.
right. Actually, the contribution. See, what happens is that that's what in the earlier sutra also. Brahman enters into the prana enters uh, into the food grain, annam, annena pratishtitam. After when it comes to the anna, it goes into the both male and female. So when it says that it becomes like a seed, both in terms of man and the woman, it is a seed. So again, that prana. So that is where once again when these two match together in the womb, and the creation started. When they are separate, the creation is not there. When they are put together, the creation. Like for example, the sunlight is there everywhere. Only thing is when it reflects on the moon, small little tiny particle moon, then you can see the moon shining. It appears to be moon is shining, but actually moon is shining sun's light. That is the only thing. So the same way that this male and female that is there in the form of pranamcha, raimcha, and that enters into the womb, and then again the journey starts. So therefore, it is both Pita and Mata. Both these things are nothing but prana only. The prana aspect only that's there between Pita and Mata.
Prajapati is Mukhya Prana. You told.
Sorry, this
Prajapati is
Prajapati is Mukhya
That
Prana.
Mukhya Prana comes under the Hanuman. You need to relate Prajapati and Hanuman are one.
Hanumana.
Yeah. For the Mukhya Prana, we used to say Hanuman.
Hanumana.
Hanumanta, Anjaneya.
Hanumanta, Anjaneya. See, Anjaneya is supposed to be Vayuputra. So that means, or see, he was in that sense that he was somebody, uh, he represented that both the preservation, this, see, all the three aspects of it. That's why we call him as Mukhya Prana. Mukhya Prana. Is also Vayuputra. That Vayu is not just simple wind. When we say Hanumanta as a Vayuputra, that is not the wind, ordinary wind, but that Mukhya Prana aspect of it, responsible. See, for our our living, like for example, breath is the one which keeps us alive. And that breath is not just only simple prana, but it is Mukhya Prana. That's something which is more important. That is the aspect of it. Then the last shloka that it comes to Pranasyedam Vashet Sarvam Tridive Yat Pratishtatam Mateva Putra. See that Tridive Yat Pratishtatam, all the three worlds. That means to say, right from these are the three worlds. What is called as the Karana, Sukshma, and Sthula. All these three levels, it is the one which is making us journey possible through because of this prana. So right from the Karana Janma, I mean Karana level, the prana is the one which is making this movement possible. That's why I said that the first thing at the Karana level, so it takes all the three gunas. So gunas are decided even at that level. Then only basically that the creation. According to the guna, the creation takes place. Like for example, my legs have to be formed from the child is supposed to be just a dot, and then a cell, and then it develops legs. The legs are supposed to be the one which carry the body, so therefore the tamasic aspect is there in the legs, rajasic aspect, sattvic aspect. So all these things are developed according to that. All these three words, the karana, sukshma, and then stula. And in fact, this is also very important to recognize that anything that is there has karana, sukshma, and stula. And even in the case of our dream, also there is karana, and then sukshma, and then stula, and then stula for the only dream person. Dream individual, it is stula. You cannot deny it. This is what Gaudapada discussion in Mandukya Karika he says that we say that dream is supposed to be unreal, but then how do you say that this is real? Only thing is that that goes away in few hours or something like that, but this goes away in few years. And in a span of creation, what is this? So it is equally. Only thing is that both these things are equally unreal. So you are going from one unreal to another unreal. And then the real is that when you cross these two things and then go to Turiya, that's what is the real. Therefore, it gives us the idea of Turiya. So, Tridive yat pratishtitam mateva putran rakshasva. Mateva putran rakshasva, the idea is that mother takes care of the child right from the womb and then feeding as part of her hug. And then when it comes out also continues to protect and child and all those things. Srishcha prajnam cha videhinati. By giving the prosperity, by the wisdom, and protects his child. Like that, prana is constantly protecting us. So, this is one Upanishad where the prana is supposed to be directly understood to be the Brahman itself. That is, Brahman manifestation is prana. But again, there is in the third Prashna, it brings about this aspect of mind. Because what guides the prana to do all those things, he says, Manas is the one which guides us. So Manas works with the all the previous impression that is there supposed to be all our instinct and the reality which is there outside. So when you are carrying with that, carries you along with the direction based on that. That's why he brings about Manas. With the direction of the Manas that he works, that's what he says in that. So Kausalyashchalayana papracha Bhagavan Kutayesha prano jayate कथमायामि अस्मिन् शरीरे आत्मानं वा प्रविभज्य कथं प्रतिष्ठते केन उत्क्रामन्ते कथं बाह्यम् अभिदत्ते कथमाध्यात्ममिति. This what is the third shloka. So third shloka he comes to the idea adhyatmamiti. So that means basically the idea of spiritual knowledge comes from the third prashna. So until that time he is still more about outside, but here he comes into the within. So while he asks these questions, he says that when does this prana enter into us, into a human being? Where does it enter into? And from where the prana is born? How does it enter into the body? How does it dwell into the how does it dwell into it, dividing itself into various pranas, and how does it leave? How does it support the external things? Now, external, internal are to be linked and connected. It's so all these things happening, and that's why it's a very intelligent question. It's a set of questions to see that your continuation from previous to year, and then from year to the next, this journey continuing. That's what he talks about. That's why he gives all these ideas. So, Tasmai Sohovacha, and then he says, Ati Prashnan Pruchasi Brahmishtosi. Now, if you want to know really about the Brahman, that's what I was saying. Unless until you do the Atma Pariksha, you will not know about the Brahman. So you look into yourself to see that why the Shankara gives us an idea saying that If you want to understand about the Brahman, I, anything that you would like to understand, you use the senses to understand. Senses are the facility to understand, but senses are also limitation, because the very definition sense is born, mind limits itself to something so that seeing takes place, hearing takes place. So senses are supposed to be limited instruments. So you are trying to understand about unlimited with the help of limited instruments. So the instrument itself is fault. So therefore, is there a way that then you know it? There's only one thing that we can think of is that yes, it's a theoretically I can understand intellectually. No, no, that's not sufficient. You should have experience. Experientially, you should know, because anything that you know theoretically, I mean, so many things that you know theoretically, you don't really know what is there deep inside, and it doesn't even affect you theoretically. So theoretically, a doctor knows very well that how the blood pumps and how this thing, how that thing. But the moment that when he falls in love, then the totally ball game is different for him. It's not just only blood pumping, it's then heart beating and all that. Something different. So experience is so totally different, and the reality that we understand by the intellect is something different. So we have to transcend that. And you can't transcend about that in the world outside. Only way that you understand about anything without even the senses, that's about you. You don't require a sense. You don't require an objective world outside to know about yourself. Therefore, Atma Pariksha is very important. Atma Pariksha, knowing yourself. That's why I used to give a Zen story where three students come to Zen master and then said, yes, you want to join? Yeah, then you take this bird, he gives the bird, kill the bird where nobody is watching, then you bring it. The first fellow goes, and then about an hour later, 2 hours later, he comes back. He killed the bird. The second fellow comes tomorrow, next day morning, kill the bird. The third fellow, he comes back without killing the bird. He asked, what happened? First fellow said, if you are asking this test that nobody is watching, naturally you will keep somebody to watch. So therefore, I don't want to take the risk. I went into the forest, made sure that nobody is watching. Therefore, I killed the bird and then brought it. So that means the eyes are required to see. And where the eyes are not there, then seeing is not. The second fellow, why did you wait till morning? I said, there's one more thing that's necessary for seeing. That's what is light. So I waited for the night, so that absolutely I made sure there is no light. So that even if somebody is there, he will not be able to watch. I killed the bird and brought it. Third fellow said, even if it is the night, there is no light, nothing like that. I'm still watching. So I couldn't kill the bird because you said nobody is there, but I'm there. He says, you are the right student. So this is the idea that you can look into yourself without any senses, without the help of anything about the outside world. Therefore, essentially, knowing the Brahman is starting with your Atma Pariksha, the self-inquiry. So that is what he says. Who am I? Adhyatmamiti. That's what he says. The last part of that question. Kathamadhyatmamiti kena utkramante katham bahyam abhidatte. All these things manifest outside. How does he support the external things and all that? Are the things related to the body within? Adhyatmam. That means who is that within me who is supporting all this body and controlling all these things? Because that he comes to that question that the student says, teacher says, Ati Prashnan Puchasi Brahmishtosi. It's a really intelligent question. You have come to the right kind of a question. Brahmishtosi. You are really interested in the Brahman. So, therefore, now let me give the idea. So he comes to the answer these five questions that there in this third question. Atmana yesha prano jayate. So yathaiva purushe che et asmin itadetaram There he comes to third sutra. Manokritena ayati asmin sharire. It is the mind which krita. Yes, it is the mind which has made this prana to enter into the body. So this whole activity of prana, atmana, the prana is born in the atman, the self, as shadow is born in a man. See, this is prano jayate. Yatha yesha purushe chayai tasmin etadatara. It's a very nice idea in the sense that if you ask where is the shadow, you say that where shadow? Shadow is not there. But then the moment you go into the light, then the shadow comes. Where is it coming from? The moment you come away from the light, then the shadow goes away. So what happened to the shadow? It has gone within you, but do you mean to say that you can see the shadow separately? You can't do it. The shadow simultaneously is created. Simultaneously. So that means to say that this, like the way that atmanaha prano jayate, prana enters, like the way shadow enters into you. As a beautiful expression, shadow enters into you. So these are all the various alankara that they say. That means to say uh, the example that they use it. the- But actually, more modern way that you say that, like the way that the creation has taken place, like that, uh, when the until that time, this individual, see, first happens is that the individual, that means the I is born, Asmita. Asmita wants to do something or the other. See, Asmita is born because that you have some idea to do it. Now, this doing is the one which is responsible for the Asmita, and therefore that's necessary for the prana, because the prana means basically spandana. Spandana has to start. So my desire and the spandana, they're born together. Or that's what is me. I created. See, that's we say that we have so many uh, desires to manifest, and that's how we take rebirth. We rebirth because that we have some ideas to do it. So in order to achieve that, we have taken birth. So that means say it is the prana which brings about this. It is the mind brings about this prana. Now there are so many souls that can be there all over, and then so many desires and all those things that can be there, and they try to enter into see that all this manifestation takes place, but many times it doesn't even function. So therefore, it's not suitable for the leaves. So that how many souls enter into the body, but then leave before even taking birth or anything like that. It can happen million times. It doesn't matter. And out of which some of them they come to the womb, but then afterwards it is not suitable, so they go away. But then these parents will be worried, "Arey, child, wrong district." Child choice. This is choice that he has come and then gone. You would have enjoyed something. He did not provide the necessary. So there is nothing like a fear. There is nothing like a punishment or suffering. None of these things are not there. It's just like that. It's just like, so it's like the way that mango, I see the crop during the season. Millions of flowers are there, but then they drop off. So, and we still say good mango crop. All of them has potentially becoming something big mangoes, but then they don't. Like that, so many places just keeps happening, and then somewhere it clicks, and then journey continues. So, so therefore, he brings about this mind. We have to understand where this mind comes from. Now, this question comes. See, so far he was only talking about prana, then sun and all the Rai, and then sun and all those things. Suddenly he brings about mind here. So therefore, that we have to be conscious of that. Manokritena ayati asmin sharire. Because of manokriti, because of willingness that I came into. Idea is that it is absolutely my own willingness that I selected the parents, I selected the successes, I'm born, my journey started. I've no, I've nobody to blame for myself because of you. You know, you have diabetes, therefore I acquired childhood diabetes. I had diabetes, but you chose me in spite of it. It's your choice, not to blame. It's a very beautiful lesson to see that we don't blame the previous generation for that. Now the journey starts because that's right in front of us. World is there, journey starts. Now this prana is now divides itself into various pranas. That's something which is interesting. Now while dividing that, he brings about the idea of what is called as this manas, where the manas is formed, how that manas we form. That he brings about in the form of Udana, one of the pranas. We continue that. Look at this. That's what is called as Pancha Prana. Five different pranas. Look at that. Stop. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
I think this is such a beautiful concept.
Hmm.
There's only the parents or those who are become depressed because they lost a child or they have
Ah,
miscarriage or
right.